not gay if it doesn't go in, bro. Foucault's work on Greco-Roman culture has demonstrated how male-male eroticism was governed by a strict understanding that the penetrated partner was a non-citizen, that is, a slave, a woman, or a young boy. The civic status and political power of the adult male citizen was contingent upon his body remaining impenetrable. For it is understood that when one played the role of the subordinate partner in the game of pleasure relations, one cannot be truly dominant in the game of civic and political activity. To be penetrated was to cease to be fully human. According to Trebek, this pattern will re-emerge throughout Europe after about 1700. Know you did your research when one source mentions another. I don't even have to tell you who Trebek is. You already know, we covered it in Act 1. Who's the best video essays ever? No, goddammit me. Passivity of any kind was unacceptable. While this ancient Greek model did not suggest specific and discrete identity to those males who chose passivity, it did characterize them by effeminacy. These themes of dishonor, sexual passivity, effeminacy, and social disqualification, nevertheless, came into play in the formation of the homosexual identity at the end of the 19th century. The only remotely acceptable form of male-male sodomy was that performed by an adult male upon an adolescent boy who was seen to exist in a, quote, transitional state between man and woman, and therefore neither fully male nor fully human. But I've also heard this wasn't like a fully accepted thing, and often people try to keep their children away from these men because it would often leave them, well, traumatized, obviously. Trebek's research reveals a consolidation of gender difference taking place in the 1700s by which effeminacy became associated with anal passivity. Adult men were deemed effeminate only when they allowed themselves to be sexually penetrated. Also, recent studies have emphasized that even in societies in which standards of beauty are often predicated on male archetypes, and, even more strikingly, in cultures that do not regard sexual relations between men as unnatural or sinful, the line is still drawn at passive anal sex. In medieval Islam, for all its emphasis on homosexual eroticism, quote, the position of the insertee is regarded as bizarre or even pathological. Volume 2 of the History of Sexuality, Foucault writes that what the atheists find hard to accept is the authority of a leader who as an adolescent was an object of pleasure for other men. There is a legal and moral incompatibility between sexual passivity and civic authority. Only, quote, honorable sexual behavior consists in being active and dominating and penetrating and thereby exercising one's authority. In other words, moral taboo on passive anal sex in ancient Greece formulated as a kind of hygienics of social power. To be penetrated is to abdicate power. And this belief has remained part of the modern understanding of masculinity. Penetration is central to our discussions of gender, whether acknowledged directly or not. Kemp explores how the penetrated male has been historically understood as waste, prerogatively feminine, submissive, and even psychotic. Penetration of men is the unsettling performance that calls all our myths and constructions about gender into question. We're exploring the why more deeply in this section, because just saying homophobia seems a bit reductive, though still true. Often when those who disapprove speak on men being penetrated, it comes from a place of discuss, very often mentioning the intended feature of the anus. But this is silly. Think of that quote I showed you in the beginning. No one's like, ew, pee comes out of there, you can't do that. That was a great quote, right? From a guy no one knows. It was Freud. Rare Freud W. Whilst the horror of is clearly central to the phobia surrounding sexual use of the anus, Kemp maintains that an equally nonsensical, though powerful, gender discrimination is at work, rendering the male anus as a particularly problematical site